back with another episode of Serial CEO. I am ecstatic. I met this gentleman right before I moved to San Francisco, about 3 months before I started this podcasting journey. What was that, 2016? I met you December 2015 at the Skyline Club.
That's right.
We were top floor of the, what is that,
One America
building?
One America building.
Now we at the top floor of Circle Tower on Monument Circle.
Where we belong.
Very fitting.
Good to see you
hey,
again,
I appreciate you for sitting down with me, man.
My pleasure.
I've had the opportunity to get close, become good friends with your son.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I met you years prior, and we had an immediate connection. You
Yeah.
immediately presented yourself as a mentor, shared, your successes, and it just motivated me, right, to become one of the elite business people here in Indianapolis, even as I left, right? And
we missed you.
So
we missed you. We need you here.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. Glad to sit down with you. And the people, I'm sure that a lot of the people who've seen this may know you, may have known of you, but there's a large audience that I think can learn a lot, right, from your experience and from your wisdom. So if you could kind of give us like a real quick, we got 14 floors of an elevator introduction right now.
All right.
On who is Lee White. Okay. And then we'll dive into your story a little bit.
Before I do that, thank you, Mike, for the opportunity to join your show. I know it's soaring in the ratings, so I'm sure my phone's going to ring off the hook after people see this. So thank you for thinking about me. And you're right, we did have an instant connection. You seem like the kind of person that really cares about people and cares about the city. And we need more people like you, especially young people, because you're going to take over that next generation of who's your leaders, and we need the best and the brightest. So my story is pretty basic. I mean, I grew up here in Indianapolis. I'm a proud IPS graduate. IPS has put out some of the top talent around this country, and I'm just proud to be a part of that story. I went to Marian College, before it was Marian University. Majored in business administration. I always knew I wanted to lead a company someday, and put that thought in the back of my mind because of some of the obstacles that we're faced with when it comes to moving up the ladder. So I decided I would focus on a career in sales. Spent 28 years in sales, working for 2 companies in particular here in Indianapolis, just plying my craft, developing my skills as a sales and marketing leader here in town. Married, 3 children, one of which you know very well, my oldest son, Robert, who is my business partner now. We started our company, Secured Site Services, 3 years ago. Decided that we would create a legacy business, create some opportunities for generational wealth, and we're hard at it.
Yeah.
So
for sure. I think that sales is one of those skills that, especially now that digital marketing has become so prevalent, and people have almost started to be just like one person teams when they think about getting their product out there. And we haven't really had as many people really lock in on sales, right? And so how would you say that spending 28 years, you said 28 years in sales, how would you say that has translated into equipping you for success in other realms of business?
I'm glad you asked that question. First of all, Mike, when you look at the whole category of sales, there's not a lot of minorities in sales. And every national meeting, every corporate meeting I would attend representing the companies I worked for, I would usually be the only black executive there in the midst. I'll never forget one trip we went to Hawaii, and it was all white. And so I felt honored that, hey, this is proof that minorities can be successful in sales. And of course now, there's a lot of minorities doing some great things, leading organizations. Obviously we have CEOs, we have sales leaders. But for me, the whole concept of sales is all about relationship building. And I would say that that's probably a skill that I've kind of perfected, primarily just by getting people to talk about themselves. People like to buy from people they like and people they trust, and I've tried to be the most trustworthy person I could be. and separating the product from the person. You know, that, hey, if you're going to buy this product, you're buying me, and I'm going to bring you everything that you need to be successful, whether it's relating to your business or outside of your business. Some of my best friends are people that I've worked with as a sales rep who they didn't even buy any products from me, but we just developed a relationship because there was something between the two of us.
Yeah.
And I think part of sales is just solving a problem. You know, when you go to the store, you either need to buy a good cut of meat for your cookout, or you have to go buy a refrigerator that works in your house. But you're looking to solve a problem. And for me, sales is all about solutions.
Yeah, you really pulled that out of the mastermind, because that was going to be my next kind of question to pose to you is, when you're talking about it being about people over simply the product, a lot of times it's about understanding that in sales, you're not serving a specific item to someone, you're providing them with a solution, right?
Absolutely.
And it's so about understanding them and understanding that your product may not be the right solution at all times, but if you really understand someone, you'll know when your product is the right solution for them.
Absolutely.
Right. And so how has focusing in on that relationship first versus just pitching, right? How has that also helped as you became an owner, right? And you're thinking about creating products.
That's a good question. Let me back you up. First of all, everything in relationships, even if it's marriage or friendships, just like you and I are friends, the whole key to a quality relationship is that you're able to bring something to the table for that person, whether it's a solution or whether it's just something that they're looking for at that particular point in their lives. And so I've always looked at every encounter as, well, what can I do for you? When we leave, the thing that I judge from a relationship is, when we leave each other, do you want to get back together with me? Do you want to re-engage because of something that I've said, done, or offered you? And to me, that's the test of a quality relationship is, what do you bring to the table? So you mentioned earlier about digital, and the digital world is all very impersonal. It's all very, metrics based and statistic based. So you take out a lot of the personal, encounter. Well, for me, my success has always been built on bringing that personal encounter to the table. What can I do for you, and what can I leave you with that makes you want to come back?
Yeah. How can people that may be a little nervous, right? Because especially when you first get started with networking in general, you may go to just some open networking events, right? As you become a more experienced networker, it does become about kind of creating those direct contacts, getting deeper relationships. But how can someone kind of fight off that stage fright when they walk into a room full of people they don't know and they're looking to start establishing relationships?
Well, I happen to, you're not going to believe this, but I was an introvert when I was in high school. And the only way I came out of that introvert shell was to get a job in sales. My first job was at a shoe store, Kenny Shoe Store. And my boss told me, he said, anybody can sell shoes, but no, it really takes a sales expert to sell socks and polish and, stockings and all the other stuff that goes with it. That's what's going to help you make a lot more money. I was money driven in high school, I'm not going to lie. So I said, okay, I've got to come out of my shell if I'm going to sell all these accessories to go with the shoes. Because people come in, they know they want shoes. They're going to buy a pair of shoes. And that was the turning point in my life. And what really sparked me to understand the concept of sales and networking is that you've got to get people to talk. Instead of you talking, get them to talk. Get them to talk about themselves. Get them to talk about a current event. Hey, what'd you think of the Super Bowl? What was your favorite commercial? Instead of making it all about you, and you come to these networking events with, I want to get something, I want to get business, I want to get some cards, I want to meet I want to meet Mike Pirtle so I can get more business. Well, instead of having that as your objective, just go in and just get to know people. And typically when you get to know somebody, and over time, the one thing I found out about sales is that there are no instant sales. So if you think that you're going to have one encounter and you're going to come away with business, it's not going to happen. So play the long game. Start to get to know that person. Find out something about them that's unique. Tell me something about you that nobody else knows. And then that conversation will eventually lead to you, and then you can get to what it is that you're looking for. But don't make it all about you and your objectives. Get to know that person. And people love to talk about themselves. Right. So get them to talk about themselves, and that will change your whole networking approach.
Yeah, that's powerful. I think a really great way to think about that, and something that I've shared before is, it's much better to go into a situation like that with the goal of being interested in who's in the room versus trying to be interesting.
Exactly. That's right. Well said, Mike. Well said.
That's powerful. And I think the other powerful side of that is once you learn about someone, then you'll find that where you all have common interests is what's going to make you interesting.
That's right. And it's going to make you connectable because people are into one-stop shopping, and it doesn't take very long. The other piece to that, though, Mike, is the first impression. I mean, first impressions are lasting impressions. So go to these events and look sharp, let somebody, and the first thing I always say when I meet an executive, I really like your suit, or I like your tie, or I like your outfit, because then people love to be complimented. And once you've made that compliment, be sincere, don't just be bogus about it, but make a sincere compliment, and that typically gets people talking. Right. They appreciate that you've noticed something about them. Right. And you're not just there to get a business card or to get a connection.
Have you heard of Og Mandino?
I have not.
He wrote a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World.
And that wasn't about me?
It pretty much was. You and a friend of mine, Topher Bates. That's specifically who this.
I do know Topher.
Was written on. You know Topher?
Yes, I know of him. I know.
Okay.
That's a reputation.
Yeah, that's my dog right there. So he's the one who told me about this. It's called 10 Scrolls within that book, and one of the scrolls says I actually have these things I sell called laws, right? It's got like the 4 agreements, and then like that, and like the 10 commandments. Sure. Just principles for success, right? I call them components of the elite mindset. Really, it's like when you got these principles in your mind that you are pushing your actions through, it tends to protect you, right? And so one of them is I will greet this day with love in my heart. Right, and so just when you see somebody and you literally take time to just appreciate their presence. Yes. You don't think about what you can get from them or how interesting you can look to them, but you just appreciate their presence, right? Yeah. That's so important, and that's basically what you're saying. It's just like appreciating them, acknowledging, that you appreciate the way they're presenting themselves. Like it's pretty natural.
It's glorifying, and it changes the whole dynamic of your conversation. Another thing that I have found that people who are really leery about networking, take a friend. Yeah. Because your friend may know somebody, or there's power in numbers if you don't feel confident in your own ability. But for me, like I said, once I got through that high school phase of being an introvert and became a sales leader at the shoe store, my confidence soared. Yeah. And confidence is so important when you're interacting with people, especially if you're trying to go to a networking event. Be confident in yourself that you do have something to offer, and that, hey, I'm just as important as anybody here in this room, even if they are CEO or the mayor or the governor. We're all God's creation, so we're all equal.
Facts. And that kind of allows us to move into a conversation about imposter syndrome. Okay. Because all of us do have a value, especially if we've taken the time to identify what we want that value to be, right? But a lot of people may deal with a level of imposter syndrome, which for anyone who may need this definition, we'll just put it on the screen somewhere.
No, hey, speak the truth, Mike.
But one thing that nobody can ever take from you is what you've done.
That's correct.
Right? And so if you're questioning your confidence, a lot of times what that is you're questioning your competence. And so literally choosing to accept challenges that stare those areas that you may question your ability in right in the face, right? Like oh, I'm shy, I'm not super comfortable talking to people. Let me go work in sales, right? For me, in college, I would throw parties, right? This is probably my first time in a while I threw a decent little party after All-Star, but I used to throw parties, Jello shots, flight brownies,
I'm sure.
I really like to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I work hard and I play harder. I just don't play often.
Right.
But for me, it was a lack of discipline. I knew that. I knew I didn't have the discipline to run a business, to run an enterprise, and that was my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did I do? I literally joined the military, right? Like I gave up all freedom.
Well, not all freedom.
Well, for 3 months it was all freedom.
Yeah, that I'll buy.
But, I chose to put myself in a position that was completely outside of myself so that I can redefine who I am, right? Have you ever had a period in your life where you felt like it was important to redefine who you were or to sharpen an aspect of yourself and you decided to kind of jump into an entirely different water to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So out of college, I was recruited to come work for a department store and learn the whole fashion merchandising and, still love fashion to this day. And then went the route of becoming a fashion buyer. So I was actually out buying fashion, going to New York and doing all that. There came a point in time because I was a young father, I had 2 kids at the time, Robert and Jennifer. I realized that I wasn't being a good father. I was traveling all the time, living this glamorous lifestyle of a fashion buyer, and decided, there's more important things in life than this job. So I decided to leave that industry, and that's when I took on a career in sales. So for me, I didn't know as much about sales other than those 3 years working in the shoe store. But I had the confidence that, I know enough about sales and now I know enough about procurement that I can blend those 2 skills together. Yeah, it took a long time for me to find the right job because everybody wanted to hire a buyer. Nobody wanted to hire a salesperson because I didn't have much sales experience other than high school. So that was the time where I had to really remake myself and really convince myself that I can do this. Even though there's not a lot of minorities in sales, I believe that I have what it takes because I know how to build solid relationships. And took that plunge and never looked back. I mean, just have had a really fantastic sales career from that.
I love that. I'm going to get kind of into some tracks of our conversation that I like to have, some things I like to ask people and just collect this as like a database.
All right.
So one of the first questions is books. Like what's like one of your favorite books that you've read that really impacted your mindset and approach?
Who Moved My Cheese?
Haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, that's a business executive primer, just about just understanding how to chase your dreams and how to work the process. And for me, I've always felt hard work pays off. I mean, you and I know the story. We have to work 10 times harder in order to get 1 time farther. So for me, I never had a problem with hard work. I don't mind putting in the time. I've always tried to keep my life in balance, God, family, work. So, as long as I'm keeping that, and when I'm out of balance, I can tell. As things don't go as well, either at work or at home, and certainly I'm not giving enough to my church. So once I figured out that whole balance equation, and I've kept that in the front of every decision I've made, Who Moved My Cheese was kind of the wake-up call that, you've got to really be organized with what's important in your life and prioritize those things that really help you to really, truly be a success.
I love that. What would you say is a mindset or a perspective, a character trait that you try to prioritize, like being disciplined or being prompt, right? Things like that. What would you say is something that you work to make sure that you be on a regular basis?
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. So when I worked, I won't say the name of the company, but I worked for a company and I wasn't satisfied with the quality of the work that we were putting out, not just in the field, but in the office as well. Walk in, desk would look messy, and you'd bring company into. I'm a guy that brings executives into my house. I want you to see who we are, and things weren't neat. Carpet wasn't clean. So I went to my boss at the time and I said, look, I want to develop what's called a standard of excellence for our company. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, we need to show that we are excellent to our clients, to our employees, and they actually let me implement it. And so once I got that done, I said, you know what, I'm talking the talk. I need one for myself. And so right about that time, this was about 15 years ago, I developed a standard of excellence for myself. And that is what I live by. How do I look? How do I present? You know, what type of relationships do I have? Where do I hang out? You have to show people excellence, because in our world, being average is not going to get you anywhere. I mean, and certainly being good isn't enough. So I felt like as long as I'm excellent, my clients are going to see it. It's going to show in my results. It's going to show in my relationships. My friends are going to say, you know, there's something about him that's different. You know, if I show up on the pickleball court, I'm looking good. You know, and I'm playing the best that I can possibly play. If I'm at church, I'm dressed up. I mean, everybody wants to dress down now. I'm not going to do that. So my standard of excellence does not deviate from what I think is necessary to show the world that I'm about excellence. Not average, not good. I want to be excellent.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Be excellent, be elite. That's a standard that can apply to literally everything.
Just about everything.
Is that excellent? That's a yes or no question.
That's right. Yeah, no in between.
There is nothing in between. I love that. I love that. And as much as you can make success a binary equation, is the better.
Well, for us, and I'll leave race out of it, but just as a people, we're always looked at as not necessarily on the same par. And so for me, it's like nobody's ever going to look at me and say, well, this guy is not excellent. And that's a game changer. It's been a game changer for me throughout my career, because I just won't. You mentioned timeliness. I don't like being late. Yeah. I mean, my son, it drives him nuts, because I'm at a meeting a half an hour and he shows up right at time, and he's like, Dad, the meeting didn't start until, no. Yeah. I'm here because now I can relax. I don't have any stress. I didn't get caught in traffic. I'm here, and my client or whoever we're meeting with knows that I respect their time, and that their time is important. And I can't wait to see them. Yeah. So, and that means a lot.
And it makes a big difference. Like I remember Shane Battier.
Oh, yeah.
Shane Battier.
Yeah.
He was really known for that, his timeliness. And like at halftime, like he would jog to the locker room, because like, look, we're going to get to where we got to go so we can do it and do it in an excellent fashion.
I like that.
I like that as well. So, let's see. We could go in so many different directions.
Go for it.
But let's go forward.
Okay.
Right? That's always a good way to go when you got a choice. Mm-hmm. So, where you are today, how do you see your contribution? And you're an Indianapolis native, and we're here in this beautiful city. We're right here. We can see the monument right there. We're doing monumental work.
Yes,
right?
we are.
Anytime that you're doing something with generational wealth and perspective, you're doing monumental work.
Thank you.
So you've got a strong foundation. What do you see for the city? What do you want your contribution to be going forward?
I spend a lot of time working with 10 Point Coalition, an organization that's all about crime prevention. I don't like the fact that crime has settled into the urban areas. There's a lot behind crime that people don't understand. I mean, there's a certain amount of hopelessness for some people who feel they've been downtrodden. The church I attend is in the heart of one of the worst demographics in central Indiana. But we want to make a difference. So part of my whole time frame, my God family work, part of my God time is spent helping the church and 10 Point to help bring solutions to that community, whether it's helping the lobby for a mental health clinic in our church, or whether it's helping 10 Point to get funding to put more people on the streets, working with Austin Smith and his program to bring gun control cameras to communities. I mean, I'm all about helping to make Indianapolis more of a safer city. I think that we deserve that. I think that communities have been left behind. And so I've committed my time and focus and resources to the United Northwest area to try to help make change there.
I love that.
We have to, man.
Yeah, somebody's got to pick up that cross of filling those disparities, for sure.
Yes.
So,
You know, and I was part of CICF. I have to throw a plug in for Brian Payne and the work that he did in bringing equity to our community through the philanthropic world. You know, that's really where the power is. It's not politics, it's philanthropy.
right.
And so I am very involved in philanthropy work around the city. Love what Lilly Endowment is doing with their work. We have the resources to make change in these communities that are challenged. And unless individuals like you and me who have made it, so to speak, we got to go back and help other people make it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm all about.
100%. And with that in mind, my last question for this show is going to be entirely about the people behind the camera, the people listening right now.
Okay.
Right? Because I think that funding is something, and capital, right, is something that a lot of people struggle with,
Yes.
of course. For me, the path of controlling the controllables and me being sort of like a hard-headed Gemini, I guess, was just like fight through the trenches, generate revenue, add value to my industry until you couldn't get around what we're doing, brand it appropriately, right, and get the revenue. But that's a hard road, right, and that it takes a lot of persistence and it takes a lot of sacrifice.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
and a lot of the philanthropic organizations have, you know, grants, have programs that can help people to make progress through and maybe even avoiding some of that pain.
Right.
Right. And so the question that I have is, how could an early stage entrepreneur, someone who's just starting their brand, or maybe even 5-10 years in, but they may be kind of plateaued, what can they do to get in position to gain help from some of these philanthropic organizations?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first and foremost is they need to be good storytellers. You know, you got to get your story out there, and whether it's bringing a team like you in to help videotape what they're doing in the community, people need to see what you're doing, and they need to see outcomes. Outcomes are really what the philanthropic community wants to hear. What have you done? How many people have you taken from A to point Z? You know, how many people have come through your doors, and what output have you created with the work that you're doing? The big issue I have in the philanthropic community is we have too many small organizations doing the same thing. You know, you can go to every block and somebody's doing something for tutoring, or you can go to every block and somebody's doing something with a food pantry. Well, food pantries don't solve problems. They solve temporary problems, which is I'm good with, but how do you help that person figure out how to become self-sufficient so they don't have to use a food pantry? That to me is real change. And so organizations really need to look at, what can I do to create a long-term sustainable result program, and then how do I tell the story so that people want to give me money? There's money out there. I mean, we know that there's a lot of rich people in the world, and they want to, first of all, some of them have to give their money for tax breaks. The others do it because they really want to make a change. But you've got to tell a story so that somebody wants to give you money. And don't try to do it yourself. Go pull all the other organizations that are doing what you do, collaborate, get together and say, how do we pool our resources? You know, if we can get past our egos, Mike, you know, well, it's my program, I'm running this. Instead of, why don't we all run this together? And all of us, instead of doing it in one zip code, let's pull all our zip codes together, take our resources to a philanthropic agent, and really do it right.
Yeah.
That's where we're missing in our community.
Yeah, and I love that answer, and I'm not surprised that was your answer, because that's about building an ecosystem.
Exactly.
Right, an ecosystem, and also it's about developing infrastructure, right? And so often the impact that we make is too short term, right? And we're not really laying bricks. But you're a builder.
That's right.
You've been a builder. You'll continue to be a builder. I look forward to building with you here in the near future. And
I'm on your team, Mike.
Absolutely. And I thank you so much for your time today, for joining us here on the show. Is there any last things, questions, comments, concerns, or just how in general can people find and learn more about you?
You know, the thing about, most people would tell you in my life, I'm all about helping somebody to get to the level, to help them reach their dreams. I've had some things happen in my life that have been really good. I've been blessed to have a lot of success in my life, but I'm more about sharing that success. I want to help you get to where I am and beyond, because again, too much is given, much is expected. Right. And I just believe that if you don't share your blessings, you can have your blessings taken away from you, and I don't want that to happen. I've got a great family. I've got great friends like you and Greg, and all I want to say to your audience is that look for ways to collaborate with good people, and keep your lives in balance. You know, God, faith. You know, God in your faith, your family, and then work comes last. And if you keep that in balance, you're gonna be good. For sure. Real good.
Hey, that's a master class on developing a life's work from Lee White.
But he didn't give me much time. Mike, good to see you, man. God bless you and all that you're doing.